Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn Treason and the audiobook exclusive Dooku Jedi Lost, to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Start listening wherever audiobooks are sold.
This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi show number 292. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation coffee out of a brand new One Nation coffee mug that I got in the mail last week, and I gotta tell you, it is awesome. It is white with the black logo of One Nation coffee on it, and it makes their amazing coffee taste even better. Well, not exactly, but it is the best coffee in the galaxy, I can promise you that. You can go to onenationcoffee.com and sign up for a subscription service so you'll never miss out on the best coffee in the galaxy. Coffee with Kenobi is brought to you by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. For all of your travel needs to Galaxy's Edge and the Disney theme parks, the cruise lines, or anywhere you want to go on vacation, be sure to go to our affiliate link, which can be found in the show notes on the front of our webpage or on our social media, and sign up for a free, no-obligation quote. Have a great vacation and help out Coffee with Kenobi at the exact same time. On today's show, Jim Hill joins us to give a preview of the D23 Expo and what we can expect from the Disney convention. Plus, Tom is back with the latest Star Wars news. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Joining me today for a cup of coffee is my co-host on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, a raconteur, and the podfather of the Jim Hill Media Network. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Jim Hill.
Well, hello, Dan. Thanks for inviting me on tonight.
You bet. Your resume was impeccable, so we thought we'd give you a shot.
Well, it's laminated. Let's go that far.
This week, as I've been talking about for a while, I will be heading to the D23 Expo. I've never been. There is a ton of excitement around this incredible convention every other year. I know you are something of a veteran. How many of these things have you been to?
This year's going to be the first one I've missed. I've been going since they debuted them back in September of 2009, and it's killing me. That because they are these are the Comic-Con, so to speak, of the Disney world. And in fact, I bring up Comic-Con because for the first couple of years, D23 had kind of a problem with Disney fans because they weren't familiar with sort of the Comic-Con aesthetic, the whole notion of, you can line up for, say, a presentation in Hall H and, it has 6,000 seats, but there's 16,000 people in line, which means that, 10,000 people aren't getting into this thing. And, the folks at D23, the Disney fans were used to the Disney theme park idea that if you got online for an attraction, you may have to wait 2, 3, 4 hours, but you will in fact get to experience that attraction. And so the whole notion was that, I'm sorry, we're cutting off the line and you can't get in. It made for a tough, tough couple of expos the first time around. They actually had to invent sort of the Fast Pass equivalent for the event. That's where Show Pass actually came in, and that's taken a lot of the aggravation out of the expo experience.
So is that kind of like what they did for Celebration Chicago, where you had to sort of a virtual queue and you were sort of told which panels you could get into?
Yeah. Though, the thing of the D23 Expo, though, is that, think about it. In Chicago, you were in that massive, the McCormick Center. And,
right.
Whereas the Anaheim Convention Center is big, but certainly not as big as that. So, it does sometimes get challenging, to actually get into some of these shows. And you have to sort of make decisions about, look at the schedule, and it's like, what do you really, really want? Because you you may have to hit that line really early in order to be sure to get into, say something like the Little Mermaid 30th anniversary stuff they'll be doing this time around.
Is it like at Comic-Con? You mentioned San Diego Comic-Con. Is it like that as far as if you're in a panel presentation, you can just stay there, or do they make you leave? Because at Comic-Con, they don't make you leave.
They definitely sweep the halls.
Okay, good. That's good.
Which again, but again, the folks at D23 want to level the playing field where they can. Now, mind you, there are the folks who have purchased the sorcerer's level attendance packages, and I want to say those run $2,500 a piece.
Oh wow! Even more than the Jedi Master packages for Celebration.
And they go clean incredibly quickly. But, those folks have reserved seatings for virtually everything. And, they get first access to the shops and that sort of thing. But again, I'm sorry, I'm starting off negative here, and I really shouldn't, because what's so much fun about this 3-day long event is that, for one day, for one 3-day long period under one roof, you get all of the arms of the Walt Disney Company. You get publishing, you get parks and resorts, you get the studios. And not only do you just get the studios, you get all of the studios. You get Pixar, you get Lucasfilm. And this year, for the first time ever, you're going to get 20th Century Fox. In fact, that what's kind of significant about this year's event is on Saturday at 10 a.m., you're going to get to see the Disney family welcome to Simpsons. That Matt Groening and a lot of the folks who do the voices for the show are going to be there. And then right after that, they're going to be out on the show floor doing autographs. So
awesome.
it is, and what's great about it is that because Disney thinks, you need to understand that Disney created D23 in 2009 to be not a fan club necessarily, but an affinity organization. The notion was to get the company's biggest super fans, the most passionate, the people who are most passionate about the brand, and to give them as much information about upcoming projects and that sort of thing, so they could go out and evangelize to friends and family about, things like Frozen 2 or for that matter, Rise of Skywalker. So, that's one of the reasons why when you go to this event, you get to see things that nobody else gets to see. In fact, half the fun of going to something like the D23 Expo is sometimes you get to see things that for the one time that they're out in public, and then they never come out again. And, for example, I remember when Disney did this huge presentation for Gigantic, which was going to, no laugh, a huge presentation for Gigantic, but this was Disney's animated version of Jack and the Beanstalk that was set in Spain during the Age of Discovery, and had Jack befriending a 60-foot tall young girl giant called Ema, and the two of them banded together to take down the storm giants. And this was going to be Disney's big project for 2018. It was going to be directed by Nathan Grano, the gentleman who directed Tangled. It had a score that was written by Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez.
Oh wow.
And it was going to be produced by Dorothy McKim. I mean, it was literally the A-team at Disney. And so they did a song on stage. They showed boards. They made you aware that, this is a big deal for Disney, and this project is coming soon. And then I want to say 6 months after they did that presentation on stage, the project flamed out. Disney shut it down. They did $100 million write-down on the movie because in the end, they just couldn't figure out how to make it work to have a 6-foot tall teenage boy befriend a 60-foot tall, 10-year-old girl. They couldn't break the back of that story problem. But you got to remember how Disney works. All of this stuff went back into the vault, and who knows, 40, 50, 60 years from now, sort of like what happened when Disney made its first run at The Little Mermaid in the 1940s for a Hans Christian Andersen biopic that they were going to do with Samuel Goldwyn. All that art went into the vault and eventually got pulled out for The Little Mermaid, the Musker and Clements film in 89 or thereabouts.
That worked out pretty well.
It did. But again, this is the thing of the D23 Expo. You get to see this stuff. And, because you are the super fan, you're there in the building, you get to see this stuff. And sometimes, you're the only person outside of the company who gets to see this stuff. So
let's talk specifically about Lucasfilm, because Lucasfilm, of course, has been there before, but now they have they officially have a not a pavilion, but a section of the floor that's staked out for them. There's not just some token Star Wars stuff. There's like an actual Lucasfilm presence there. And I'm of course very excited about that with Coffee with Kenobi and seeing what's going to happen there. But what have you heard about what we can expect to see from Lucasfilm Pavilion? I know, of course, the Stormtrooper collection that was at San Diego Comic-Con will be there. I wonder if there'll be any kind of refurbishment on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, obviously, this is going to be the time and the place that's going to be walking out a lot about The Mandalorian. The 10 episode series that Favreau helped put together for Disney Plus, the streaming service that's debuting in November. And in fact, you and I were talking a little bit off air before we started recording tonight that there's another project that the news just broke about today about the revival of the Obi-Wan Kenobi film project that Ewan McGregor was initially associated with, that was seen at one point as sort of a companion for the Solo: A Star Wars Story, and likewise the Boba Fett feature that was in consideration. And there's been some talk that Mr. McGregor may make an appearance to confirm this project at the D23 Expo. So there's face it, Lucasfilm is going to be, well, look, in the past, when they did the Galaxy's Edge Pavilion and people were able to stand in front of the 1 inch for 1 foot version of, the model for Black Spire Outpost and get a sense of how truly huge and ambitious this new land was. The Lucasfilm, since, Disney bought, them outright in 2012, is that right?
That's right.
They put them front and center, and the fact that they are there on the show floor with as strong a presence as they are, that says a lot about, what's coming, from, the folks at Lucasfilm. And again, that's the other thing to understand about the D23 Expo. A lot of this show is all about giving people that first look over the horizon at stuff that's coming. And that we're in a very exciting time. The Star Wars side of the fence. I mean, yes, we have the Skywalker saga ending with the rise of Skywalker, and likewise, just in the past couple of days, we've learned about Star Wars Resistance. This September launching its second and final season. But there is so much more stuff, that is coming that they're finally now going to get a chance to talk about. And the interesting thing is that because of, what the D23 Expo is, you're in a building where it's not just theme park fans, it's not just animation fans, it's not just Star Wars fans. It's all of these people who love pop culture. In fact, the thing I think you're going to enjoy, Dan, is, face it, when you go to Chicago to Star Wars Celebration, the cosplay is wonderful. But here you get it at such a ridiculously different level. And that's the thing. You get Star Wars people who come as their favorite Disney character, so you get a BB-8 with, Mickey Mouse ears, or, I mean, you have to be ready for this, Dan, because it is it's genuinely going to be surreal.
Oh, I can't wait. I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Tom will join us for some Star Wars news, including what Jim had just alluded to, Star Wars Resistance, and the fact that it's coming out not only in October for season 2, but it will be the final one. And then we will return with more Jim Hill. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
It's news segment time, and Tom's going to share some more, even more exciting things we can expect from Lucasfilm and Star Wars at the D23 Expo. Take it away, bud.
Absolutely. The D23 Expo is here, and StarWars.com gives a breakdown of the presence that Lucasfilm and Star Wars will have at the Expo. To start, if you missed the evolution of the Stormtrooper exhibit at the San Diego Comic Convention, the impressive display will be at D23 Expo, along with a special video exploring Stormtrooper design, featuring interviews with concept artists Doug Chiang, Dave Filoni, and J.J. Abrams. There will be the Disney Plus Pavilion, of course, where guests will have a chance to sign up for the new streaming service early, and according to StarWars.com, they may get a closer look at the world of The Mandalorian. Now, of course, at the D23 Expo, the Disney Legends ceremony, hosted by Disney Chairman and CEO Bob Iger, will honor numerous visionaries and artists who've made a significant contribution to Disney. Among those being honored are Jon Favreau and James Earl Jones. There will be panels galore, so go behind the scenes with Walt Disney Studios, or the music and sounds of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Oh, you can't miss Vader Immortal Episode 2 First Look, Disney Plus Showcase, and Heroines of the Disney Galaxies, hosted by the very energetic voice of Ahsoka Tano, Ashley Eckstein. Now, there will also be exclusives and early release merchandise, including a rumor that Sith troopers have infiltrated D23 in the Uptown Disney sector. So, Dan, be on the lookout for a few items available ahead of official product launch in September.
Oh, I definitely will. And also, I've also heard, this is breaking, at the D23 Expo, you can get a CWK selfie with Dan Z. How exciting.
Wow, there you go. Woo! Sign me up, of course.
Well, I mean, gosh, I'm just hearing you say this makes it even more real. Just knowing I'm going to get on an airplane very, very soon and get to experience this. I've said it a million times. I know we've talked about it at work. But I have always, since I first heard of the D23 Expo when it started, I've always thought this would be so great because I love Disney about as much as I love Star Wars. So to see it all together,
yes,
and know I can cap off the evening with a trip to Batuu, it really sounds amazing. The great part, there's so many great parts, but Friday, unfortunately, I'm not going to be there because I'll be teaching during the day. Mm-hmm. I'm getting on a plane right after school, so I'm going to miss the Disney Plus showcase. I'm going to miss all the Mandalorian stuff. But I will certainly be there Saturday in the room at Hall D23 for a go behind the scenes of the Walt Disney Studios. The Star Wars show said, at the time of this recording, that they're going to have some stuff for us to see. I'm not sure what that's going to be. I also know that there are no cameras allowed on some of the major panels because it's going to be some pretty heavy stuff, and they want it to be exclusive for the attendees, which I really admire and I appreciate. What if you were going? Where would you be? Where would your head be at right now?
Oh my, boy, I haven't really even thought about it. I am interested in the music and sounds of Galaxy's Edge. Now, maybe that's because I haven't been there yet, and so I don't know what that includes, but that sounds like a lot of fun to me. And of course, we got to, at Celebration, go through the Vader Immortal experience. And so I'm kind of intrigued as to what episode 2 of that will look like there. I've always been intrigued by that Disney Legends ceremony, being able to hear what how these people, because some of the people on that list, I'm not sure that I know who they are, but if they are being honored there, they certainly are a significant person, and I should know who they are. And so I think it would be interesting to go to that. Is that something that is on your plate, or is that on Friday?
That's on Friday. If it was not on,
nuts.
If it wasn't, I would absolutely go. Past honorees include George Lucas, Stan Lee, Mark Hamill,
Mark Hamill,
a couple of years ago. Just fantastic. I was really, the next one, you'd think Harrison's time would be up pretty soon, especially after Indiana Jones comes out. So wouldn't that be exciting?
The list of this year's recipients are Wing Chow. Of course, I know Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau, James Earl Jones, as I mentioned, Bette Midler, Kenny Ortega, Barnett, is it Ricky, and then Robin Roberts, Diane Sawyer, Ming-Na Wen, and Hans Zimmer.
Kenny Ortega is a big dance and choreography person. He's responsible for a number of great things with Disney. The one that jumps to mind right away was High School Musical, which, I mean, people may, High School Musical, giggle, but that was a gigantic phenomenon.
It's huge.
Gigantic. And he's a mega talent, which is really, really cool. There's a lot of great names on this list. My goodness. I too wish I could go to the music. I mean, I don't know if John Williams will show up, but boy, wouldn't that be nice to experience that? And going on the show floor, I know how big the show floor is because it's the same one as Celebration Anaheim, and it's massive. It's great. I know MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is going to be there, and Lou's going to be there, so I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Very cool.
There's going to be so many exciting things. And maybe, I guess if I absolutely have to, I might say hi to Drew Taylor too.
Very good. Yes.
He and I have actually been texting quite a bit about this.
I am sure. Well, so as I was doing vocabulary with my daughter tonight, I'm going to guess that you are one of her vocab words, and that would be ecstatic.
Yeah, very nice. Yes, you are correct. What an excellent transition that is.
Oh, very good. Well, speaking of excellent transitions, I don't have one for this, but we'll jump into it anyway. StarWars.com released last week the trailer for Season 2 of Star Wars Resistance. Kaz, Tam, Tora, Doza, Niku, Yeager, and the crew of the Colossus Station return along with the First Order, Agent Tyranny, Commander Pyre, Captain Phasma, General Hux, and more. The trailer also reveals that the second season will also be the final season of the show. Season 2 will premiere on Sunday, October 6th on Disney Channel, Disney Now, with subsequent airings on Disney XD.
So what do you think about this?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, it doesn't hurt that we got to see episode 1 of season 2 when we were at Celebration. I know I've mentioned that several times, but I was so excited to be able to do that. But I was a little surprised that this is this is clearly the final season. It says in the trailer, and so we know that this is going to wrap up in some fashion. And I thought that, when I watched that trailer, I just was so excited about it. And it made me think back to when we originally heard about this show and got our first look at it. And we all were kind of like, huh. At least that's how I felt. And I was like, okay, what is this going to be all about? But I have to tell you, I am full in on Star Wars Resistance. I've fallen in love with these characters. I love the buy-in for me was when we made the connection to The Force Awakens, when Hux is giving his speech and Kaz learns that his family has been killed on in that the Starkiller base blast, and I was sold, and to see the Colossus. Sorry, spoilers here for the end of season 1, but to see the Colossus take off and hit hyperspace, just the opportunities were they're just out there. So much to go see, and so many places for them to go. So I'm totally in on this. I can't wait for it.
I agree, and it was a bit of a slow burn for me at the beginning as well. But about 4 or 5 episodes in, Mason and I just got hooked, and honestly, I think just seeing it through his eyes made it come to life. But as the series, or as the season evolved, so too did the intensity and the cost of what was going on. And I was just like you. Just completely blown away by the storytelling here, the characters, the cast is phenomenal. And I'm disappointed that season 2 is going to be the last one, because to me that's the big bombshell here.
Yeah,
I'm not heartbroken by it, because I feel like I'm okay with it, because think about the time frame this is set in the sequel trilogy. There's not a lot of wiggle room, and there's not much space to tell a great story. I admire and respect so much that we're going to have this where we can get a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it will complement the films instead of trying to cram a bunch of stuff in there, which, as I've said before, I feel like the comics with the original trilogy stuff, I feel like that we've just got way too much crammed in there. It's just getting harder and harder to just sort of embrace that as much as I want to. So I like that they're doing it this way, and they're going to have time to make it happen. And then after this, I'm assuming that just means we're now going to focus on the Clone Wars return. It just sort of makes sense.
Oh, yes, that's true. So, but one thing you had said that I want to just mention again is, remember when we watched that first episode of season 2, how when it was over, we kind of looked at each other and said, that was tense. That was like on the edge of your seat the whole time. And I feel like this trailer sets that up, that there's going to be cost to this season 2. So excited for it. My daughter's excited for it. We both have watched the trailer numerous times and noticed some battle droids and some characters from Force Awakens in there, some of those smugglers. So we are all in.
I love it. I know it's going to be exciting, and I hope, I don't know that we'll hear much about it at the D23 Expo or not. Maybe they're going to wait till after that event, but it's great. And I'm just a little disappointed we won't be able to spend more time with this cast, but who knows? Who knows what the future will hold? It's going to be awesome.
Right. And so a quick note to wrap things up tonight. For those of you wanting the latest news of Disney Plus streaming service, just for you, they launched their own social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. So follow them and catch everything new on the service that will launch on November 12th.
That's right. It's pretty cool because they've got stuff for Instagram and Twitter, like you said, and I love it. I'm very excited for this.
And I can't wait to hear what you bring back from D23 regarding Disney Plus and just visiting the pavilion and seeing what they have and how this looks and how it's going to work.
I know. I guess, I'm assuming we'll get the chance to sign up there. I know for San Diego Comic-Con 2 years ago, that was when the DC streaming service started up and you were able to sign up for a discounted price, which was pretty cool. And they're giving away T-shirts and stuff. And I'm such a big fan of the swag anyway, of course, too. So yeah, we have lots of great stories. I'm looking forward to talking all about this with you next week for sure. Thanks so much, buddy.
Oh, absolutely.
Greetings. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects, top-notch narrators, and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From Luke Skywalker to Kylo Ren to Admiral Akbar, you'll recognize all of your favorite characters. Listen to movie tie-ins like The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, and original titles such as Thrawn Treason, Alphabet Squadron, Master and Apprentice, and the audiobook exclusive Dooku Jedi Lost. With Star Wars audiobooks, you'll have plenty of Star Wars listening to keep you entertained. Available wherever audiobooks are sold. While I'm at the D23 Expo this upcoming weekend, I will no doubt be heading to Disneyland, and it can't happen without the amazing folks at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Their signature service and expert advice helps clients maximize their vacation time and dollar. Their no-cost, no-obligation quote when you use the service is invaluable to me, and they also proactively adjust the booking if the rate goes down, and you really can't beat that. They will help you and your family enjoy everything Galaxy's Edge and the Disney theme parks and the cruise line have to offer, help plan every detail, and share invaluable tips. Be sure to go to our affiliate link, which can be found in the show notes, on the front of our webpage, or on social media, and sign up for a free, no-obligation quote. You'll have the best vacation possible and help out Coffee with Kenobi in the process. And speaking of helping out Coffee with Kenobi in the process, none of this is possible without the amazing Patreon supporters of our show. I want to thank in particular Jason Hall, Dennis Keithley, Jeff Ellis, Colby Mead, Yancey Evans, Dave Ritchie, Ross Halliban, Frank Mulder, Alexander Moylan, Melinda Wolf, Aaron Harris, Chris Kavarka, Angela Sauce, Rebecca Raven, Simbat Defterdarian, Christine Turk, Sean Reed, Kurt McKellen, Dan Ream, Brian Harding, Blake Weaver, Jim Capron, Caroline Masilli, Chris Metz, LJ Souter, Thea Selby, Daz Davies, Christian Dale, Brian McKinney, Connie Shee, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick Deco, and Mark Suter. If you're not familiar with how Patreon works, every month you give a contribution to a content creator, which of course here is myself and Coffee with Kenobi, and that money goes towards the production of the show each and every week. the equipment and the upgrades, video and audio, and all the travel arrangements that go into bringing you coverage from all around the galaxy. And in addition to supporting us and helping out this show, you get something out of it. The most exciting thing, well, there are a lot of exciting things, but one we get the most feedback on is that for $5 or more a month, you get access to CWK Pour-Over, which is our exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else, hosted by myself and the original co-creator of the show, along with me, Corey Clubb, and of course our CWK newsman, Tom Gross. We laugh, we have a great time talking about Star Wars, popular culture. We're definitely going to be talking about what's going on in the Marvel Universe very, very soon. I'll give a lot of behind the scenes of the D23 Expo and so much more. Speaking of behind the scenes, if you want to see more of the video and audio from my experiences at the upcoming D23 Expo, as well as the production of this show and my immediate thoughts on Star Wars breaking news, then for $10 more, you get access to CWK Lens, which helps you do just that through the Patreon app or on the Patreon Coffee with Kenobi webpage. And we've got something coming for the contribution level of $35 or more a month. And I'm really excited about it. We're going to test some of the software, and I will certainly let you know what's going to happen there. So if you have any questions or want to find out more about it, go to patreon.com/coffeewithkenobi. Email me, danz@coffeewithkenobi.com, and I can tell you about it. Or check out the little red button at the top of our webpage. Thank you so much. We are back, and Jim, I'll tell you what, the one thing I want to talk to you about with D23, I want to talk about the merch, and I want to you kind of be the my travel guide. Tell me how best to prepare for this, and what should I expect to really hit besides the major presentations each morning?
Well, all right. First things first. Let's talk the basics. And you're no pro at the Star Wars celebrations and that sort of thing. So, first and foremost, comfortable shoes, because you are going to be on your feet. You're going to be getting to the hall early in the morning, and then getting in line for numerous panels or walking the floor. So, comfortable shoes, good thick socks. But, you're going to want to do your homework. You're going to want to go over the schedule. I mean, face it, you're going there as a member of the press, and there's certain perks that come with that, folks that'll, help you out to get you into presentations and that sort of thing. But there's still going to be, upwards of 20, 30,000 people on site at this thing. In fact, it's worth noting that for the first time ever, the D23 Expo completely went clean in advance of the event. There are no tickets available now.
Oh, wow. I don't think I realized that.
All 3 days are completely sold out. So it's going to be body to body. Take your time on the show floor. That's the thing you have to understand. It fills the entire show floor. You'll have a lot of the official Disney exhibits in each division of the company, whether it's publishing or the Disney stores or that sort of thing, will have their own booth, their own presentations. At the same time, there will be, autograph opportunities, virtually on a half-hour schedule. It's scattered around the hall. But it's also worth it to make sure you get into the vendors space, which is actually between, the official Disney exhibits and, basically your access to the Anaheim Arena, which is where a lot of your big presentations will be. And, the irony is that the setup that Disney has finally settled on after a couple of years of doing this is they have the Anaheim Arena, and then they've also set up what is now known as Hall D23, which actually Disney likes to brag has more seats than Hall H at Comic-Con. So, I want to say 6,400.
Oh, wow.
So, a good sized crowd can get in there. But at the same time, if you're not as lucky as Dan and have, your press pass or that sort of thing, that, a ticket that'll guarantee you entrance or something, you have to make sure to line up early, especially for some of the big presentations, the studio presentation, the parks presentation, which will be held in this 100 seat space. also be smart. People sometimes will look at a schedule and think, well, I'm in the, the studio presentation that's 2 hours long. And as soon as that's over, I'll be able to rush across the entire hall, or the entire convention center and get upstairs to the third floor and get into a much smaller room and see, a history of, the Little Mermaid or that sort of thing. And it's just not realistic to think you can cover that much distance that quickly, and be fair to yourself. You're there to have a good time. Don't beat yourself up trying to do too much. Also, one of the things you need to take in mind is because this is an event set up by an affinity organization, virtually every panel and presentation ends with a giveaway. You'll be walking, for example, at the end of the animation panel last time around, they gave everybody a limited edition poster for Coco. But again, you got to understand that there's only so many, members of the convention center staff standing there trying to hand out posters to 6,400 people. It took a good 20 minutes to a half hour for that hall to clear. And, I guess, again, if you want to have a good time, you have to have a realistic mindset.
Sure.
And you have to have studied your, the actual schedule and know where things are located and how to get there. But also just be open to letting things happen spontaneously. I can't tell you the number of favorite authors of mine or animators of, that sort of thing that you'll just bump into as you move the hall. And, you can have these wonderful conversations or these wonderful experiences if you just open yourself up to that. In a weird sort of way, in your case, Dan, it's all the muscles you've already developed at every Star Wars celebration. You just have to sort of switch them to Disney mode.
Oh, man, I can't. In addition to being a lifelong Star Wars fan, I'm a lifelong Disney fan. It's really going to be the perfect merger of everything. Of course, you've got Disneyland just across the street, too. I have acquired some passes to Disneyland, too, so I'm hoping to sneak over to Galaxy's Edge at some point over this quick weekend.
Okay, well, but remember, just when you say that the Disneyland is just across the way, it's like that's a half hour to 3/4 of a mile walk.
Right.
There is no back door into DCA. You have to walk around the perimeter, and remember that Disneyland has just switched its security setup. Getting through the new security setup to get into the Disneyland Resort is a little challenging.
Is it just like what I experienced when I went to Batu for the media event back in May?
I want to say with the opening of the Pixar Pals Garage, especially with the walkway over across Disneyland Drive, things have changed a little bit. I guess that's the other thing is that so many people try to do so much during these D23 Expo that they want to do a full day at the expo, and then they want to go over to Disneyland and close out the park, and then get up the next morning and do the same thing, and it's like
you'll be tired.
And and it does you no good to sit there in the amazing Disney Parks panel and fall asleep during it because you're exhausted. So be nice to yourself, folks.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be balanced. You have to take care of yourself, or you're not going to get the full experience. But real quickly before we let you go, is Disneyland theme park attendance over D23 weekend is usually kind of dead during the day? That would be my guess.
It's so funny you say that because. Funny story. First year in September of 2009 when they did the D23 Expo, at that point it was 4 days long as opposed to 3 days long, and nobody knew what a D23 Expo was, and so attendance on the first day was so light that, and Disney desperately wanted the expo to be seen as a success, that they literally went over to Disneyland and pulled cast members and said, look, go back to, go backstage, change your costume, get in your civilian clothes, and head over to the Anaheim Convention Center. We need bodies in the D23 Expo. This is no longer the case. All right. Like I said, this is an event that's sold out all 3 days. It will be body to body. And the interesting thing is, again, you have the standard, Friday, Saturday, Sunday traffic at Disneyland. But it's when the event wraps up at the tail end of the day. And typically they'll do one big event in the Anaheim Arena, to sort of hold a couple of thousand people. But, starting at about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, you will see the surge of people go into the park, Disneyland Park. So, thank goodness there's also California Adventure to eat up some people as well. So, keep that in mind. If you think, again, you're going to be able to, I'm wrapping up here and I'm just going to go across the street and have a good time. Again, it's further away than you think. And more to the point, there's 10 or 15,000 people who are thinking just like you, so maybe,
Exactly.
Maybe go out and have Harbor Boulevard, get some dinner, put your feet up, have a rest, and then Uber over to Disneyland. You've already been on your feet all day walking around the convention center. Cut yourself a little slack before you decide to go to, check out Galaxy's Edge at night, Dan.
Right. No. It might actually be smart for me after a major panel to run over Galaxy's Edge during the day. I don't know. That's kind of the tricky balance that I am facing, which is a good problem to have, of course, where how much of D23 do I want to miss? And how can I be that close to bad too and not explore it again?
Well, let me just, as the appeal to the journalist or the Disney Lucasfilm news guy, or side of your brain, you're going to hear stuff and see stuff that you can't hear or experience anywhere else on the planet inside the Anaheim Convention Center for 3 days. And as tempting as the happiest place on earth is across the street, come Sunday night, all this stuff gets packed away and nobody ever sees it again. Right. So, just, plan accordingly, just sort of, because face it, that's the nice thing about Galaxy's Edge. It's a lot of concrete and steel. It's not going anywhere. Where the expo opens on Friday, closes on Sunday. So,
Yep. I agree. I think that's great advice. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on and getting us, and me especially, pre-hyped for the D23 Expo. I can't wait to share the coverage with all of our Coffee with Kenobi family members. And Jim, where can people reach out to you and listen to the great work you have on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network?
Let's see. Right what you mentioned, go over at Jim Hill Media, where we have, we've got the Disney Dish Podcast with Len Testo. We've got Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We've got Universal Joint with Dustin Fuse. Marvel Us Disney, which I co-host with Aaron Adams and the talented gentleman who edits a lot of our podcasts. We have our Disney merch podcast, I Want That, with Michelle Valladolid, and another little show, barely worth mentioning, Looking at Lucasfilm, what I do with one very talented gentleman, Dan Zayer. Okay, well, again, thank you for inviting me on tonight. And again, it's just killing me not to be there this year, but come 2021.
Yeah.
I will be back, because again, trust me, there's so much stuff at the expo you never get to see anywhere else. And so if you get the chance, folks, go. And if you see Dan there, tell him I said hi. So.
It is sort of ironic. We've been doing this show for a year and a half, looking at Lucasfilm, and you and I have yet to be at a convention together, but that will change in the near future, I have no doubt.
It's open. So,
well, thanks again, Jim, so very much.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are the podcast you're looking for. This is.
Before we close out the show, I want to thank our CWK sponsors, Penguin Random House Audio, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, One Nation Coffee, and our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon supporters. Please support them the way they support our podcast. And remember to listen to new and archive shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got a couple of new places here, so here we go. We include Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, where you can find the audio as well as some occasional videos, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, CastBox, Deezer, and our website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com. And if you listen to the show through iTunes, please leave us a review. You can also find us on social media such as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and we would love for you to check us out on all those places. Be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows too, including Legends Library, Resistance Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. Please leave a review for each of their shows as well, and be sure to subscribe to each of them individually on their own respective feeds. In addition to the places I just mentioned for Coffee with Kenobi, you can find me twice a month on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, as well as on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR. You can find my writing on CWK's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I have an official blogger there, as well as on IGN, where I contribute articles on Star Wars, as well as some other popular culture topics. Don't forget to check out www.patreon.com/coffeewithkenobi to support our podcast and help us keep the lights on here in the Coffee with Kenobi studios, the travel, and all the other things we do because of your great contributions. Our Patreon page is where you can listen to our exclusive weekly podcast, CWK Pour Over, hosted by me, CWK newsman Tom Gross, and Coffee with Kenobi co-founder Corey Clubb for just $5 a month. There are also options for behind-the-scenes videos, photos, t-shirts, and more, plus 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital each month. A big thank you again to Jim Hill for joining me and giving us some insights and some tips for the D23 Expo. I can't wait to bring you that incredible experience. And as always, when I go on these incredible opportunities, I want you to feel like you're a part of the show. So be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And of course, on our Patreon page, you'll get a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff as well. Thanks, of course, as always, to Tom Gross for bringing us the latest Star Wars news. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me each and every week for a cup of coffee. The support, the time you take out of your schedule to talk with me and break down the Star Wars saga and everything going on in this incredible universe means so much. This mythology, this fandom is such a great aspect and part of my life, and I can't think of better people to share it with than each and every one of you. Until next time, everybody, be sure to say hello if you're at the D23 Expo. We'll get a CWK selfie together. Am I saying W? CWK? When did that happen? Let's try it again. If you get a chance to go to the D23 Expo and you see me out on the show floor or at Disneyland and Galaxy's Edge, be sure to stop me for a CWK selfie, and we'll be sure to post that on our social media feeds. Don't forget, this is a podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio, featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies. Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn Treason and the audiobook exclusive Dooku Jedi Lost to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Start listening wherever audiobooks are sold.